So what on earth is going on with Tommy Robinson? Is he bailed or is he detained? Hopefully this video will help you. If you do find it helpful, please do consider subscribing. That helps my channel grow. So let's get into it. So first of all, we've got the Met Police saying we are aware that Stephen Yaxley Lennon, Tommy Robinson, has been arrested by Kent Police. His arrest follows a direction from the High Court that the warrant to ensure his attendance at court next week should be executed this afternoon. We understand, the Met Police says, that the warrant requires him to be detained until he can be transferred into the custody of the court on Monday. However, we also have a somewhat contradictory statement by the CPS saying at the bottom here that he was bailed to appear before Westminster Magistrates Court on Wednesday, 30th of November. Now, I can explain this for you. Now, this first bit by the Met Police here, this is separate. So he was arrested here and has been detained, according to the Met Police, to secure his attendance by order of the High Court for his contempt hearing on Monday. However, the reason this is contradictory somewhat is this is separate. So whilst he's technically been bailed on this charge to appear on the 13th of November, he's obviously been detained for something else. So you can be arrested twice for different things. So, for example, if you're arrested for one offence and then it turns out that they find that you've done something else, you can be further arrested for the separate offence. And that's just part of the legal process and the technicalities. And these technicalities, as we found out just recently, are important. The CPS confirms here, following a review of the evidence provided by Kent Police, we've authorised a charge against Stephen Yaxley Lennon of failing to provide a PIN to his mobile phone under Schedule 7 of the Terrorism Act. This follows his arrest in Folkestone on the 28th of July. CPS reminds all concerned that criminal proceedings against the defendant are active and he's got the right to a fair trial. So at that point, I would again urge and warn all of you not to make too many comments online or any comment really that you feel might jeopardize his right to a fair trial. That's why I stress that this video, I'm relying only on official facts as stated by the CPS and by the Met Police. And very generally now, I'll give you some because I've been tagged and asked the questions about the Terrorism Act. But this is general explanation, not in respect of Tommy Robinson's case. Of course, I can't do that. You know that by now. So nothing that I say is to be taken as being specific to his case. However, nonetheless, lots of people ask about Schedule 7 of the Terrorism Act. A person who is detained under the Terrorism Act can be questioned. They can be searched. They can have all of their documents, their possessions, everything else searched. And a person who is questioned under the Terrorism Act, under paragraph 5 of Schedule 7 to the Terrorism Act, must give the examiner officer any information in his possession, which the officer requests. That means they can ask you anything they like, and you have to give them the information. There are question marks over, what information you might have. Can it be used against you? Can, all this sort of stuff. Now, broadly speaking, those should all be taken separately. I'll deal with all of that in another video. This is focusing on what you must do if you are questioned in this way. So if you're asked questions, you need to answer those questions. B, give the examining officer on request any valid passport, which includes photograph or other document which establishes identity. So you have to produce your passport. C, declare whether you've got with him any documents of a kind specified by the examining officer. Do you have any documents of this sort? You must answer the question. And then if you do, you have to provide those documents. On request, you must give the examining officer any documents you have with them. Now, the key bit here is this information bit, because that includes passwords and PINs. Now, the important bit to stress here that failure to cooperate with this is in itself an offence, but it's the type of offence and what it might be confused with that I'll come back to in just a moment. But under paragraph 18, a person commits an offence if they willfully fail to comply with the duty imposed under this schedule, willfully contravenes a prohibition imposed by virtue of the schedule, or willfully obstructs or seeks to frustrate a search or examination by virtue of this schedule. And here's the important bit. A person guilty of an offence under this paragraph shall be liable on summary conviction. That means it goes to the Magistrates Court, not the Crown Court, to imprisonment for 3 months, a fine, or both. And so this is a summary offence for failure to comply with these requirements when being questioned under this Act. Now, a lot of people may have come across this or pages like it. This is a very useful page on the Counter-Terrorism Policing website for Schedule 7. What I need to clarify here, which may not be apparent to everybody with respect when you first watch it, read it, is it says here, are there any recent cases where Schedule 7 has been led to a conviction? This is where it might get confusing. It says a 21-year-old man was jailed for 3 years after a Schedule 7 stop at Gatwick Airport revealed that he breached the license condition imposed after a conviction for terrorism offences. Now, that reads to some perhaps like a Schedule 7 directly resulted in a custodial sentence of 3 years. But it led to that conviction, meaning they used Schedule 7 to stop and question somebody, and because of those questions and because of the information revealed, it led to the knowledge that they were in breach of license conditions imposed after a separate terrorism offence, and so were then jailed for 3 years. Similarly, a 24-year-old man received a 6-year prison sentence as a result of an investigation by the Met's Counter-Terrorism Command, which found that he was sharing propaganda and terrorist materials by social media. And so again, the use of Schedule 7 allowed them to discover what was being shared and so on, and thus led to a 6-year prison sentence. But as I say, Terrorism Act Schedule 7 here confirms that failure to comply with this schedule by itself is a separate offence dealt with on summary conviction. However, the question also about passwords for electronic devices, again, usefully summarised here. The answer is yes, a person being examined required to provide any information requested, including passwords and PINs to electronic devices. This is different and separate to ordinary everyday stops by the police. For example, you're walking down the street. If it is not a stop under the Terrorism Act or anything else, so that it's not applicable in that scenario, then ordinarily you don't have to answer questions by the police. Unless, of course, if they suspect you, this is ordinary situations, if they suspect you of antisocial behaviour, you need to provide your name and address, and failure to do that is a separate offence. Again, I've done videos on that in the past. But very broadly, the police here can search you, take fingerprints, they can ask you for documents, you need to provide those documents, they can ask you for information, passwords, etc., and you need to comply with it. So very broadly, and I stress not in relation to Tommy Robinson's case. Of course, I can't comment on that. Even if I did have views or information or whatever, I couldn't do so. But hopefully that gives you some understanding of what's going on here. And more importantly, why there's, on the face of it, some confusion here between what the Met have said here. They're just saying, I mean, even the Met's being cautious here to say that we understand that this requires us to detain him until Monday, whereas the CPS said he's been bailed to appear in November. Which again is, as I say, it's a separate thing. It's a separate charge. So they are just confirming here that it's been bailed on that charge to appear on the 13th of November. So I will come back if there's any further official updates and try to explain those, but only in the boundary with which I can do so without jeopardizing any of this. So again, I would reiterate what the CPS says here. For your own sake and your own safety, they say it's extremely important that there's no reporting, commentary, or sharing information online which could in any way prejudice these proceedings. So I urge you not to do that. That's why I can't say too much. I can explain very generally what they are, but without speaking specifically about that case. So I hope I've caveated that enough and warned you enough, but hopefully that provides some useful explanation. And if it does, please do like the video, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I thank you for watching.